Now it's time for one of my favorite segments, The Big I, where we talk every day about innovative ideas and inventions. And today we're looking at U.S. Geothermal. It's a company building an experimental geothermal project in Oregon with about $98.6 million loan guarantee from the U.S. Department of Energy. Japan's nuclear crisis and last year's Gulf oil spill raises the stakes in the search for alternative energy sources. So let's get right into whether geothermal energy could work for you. Joining me now is Daniel Kuntz. He's the president and CEO of U.S. Geothermal, and our friend Tyler Gray, the deputy editor from Fast Company. Daniel, let's start with you. Tell us about geothermal energy and how it works.
Great. Good afternoon, and thank you. Geothermal energy is extracting heat out of the earth, which is plentiful and an infinite supply, really, if you go deep enough into the earth. We look for where that heat is closer to the surface. Japan is a nation that's a geothermal nation that has about 500 megawatts of geothermal energy. We today in the U.S. are the largest producer of geothermal energy. We take the heat out of the earth by way of pumping out of wells hot fluid, and we go through a heat exchanger, a very sophisticated power plant that basically extracts the heat. We put that fluid back into the earth, and then on the other side of our heat exchanger, we're making electricity by turning turbines. So they're very clean. It's a closed system. We return that fluid back to the earth, and we extract that energy and make electricity that we sell to our customers.
Okay, so it's important for people to remember that you're getting warm, hot water from the earth, but it's not just a heating thing. You're using that energy to create electricity. So it can be heating, it can be cooling, it can be powering plants. How much energy can a plant like that you're building generate?
We have a modularity component to it, so we can continue to add modules as we discover the reservoir, and the reservoir gets bigger and so on. Some of these plants range up to several hundred megawatts in size to some of the smaller ones are around 10 megawatts. Just so you have some metric here, 10 megawatt plant would service some 10,000 homes.
All right, Tyler, let me ask you about this. What's your thoughts on geothermal as a replacement? I mean, people can do this in their own homes in some cases, depending on where you live. Is this a viable alternative when we're talking about alternative energy?
Sure it is, and it's going to be a bit of a hard sell because the average consumer may not see the results of this sort of effort by the Department of Energy in their average monthly bills right away. What it is more of a push toward a greener economy, toward using these resources to build a domestic program of energy rather than relying on these foreign sources of resources that won't come back.
And how viable is this as an option?
I think that it's been proven in a lot of cases, especially overseas, but this particular kind of experimental plant, it's been tested in the 80s. It's been in the 1980s, the Department of Energy actually went ahead with a plant in California that was a 50 megawatt plant, and it ran for 3 years very successfully. Beyond that, there hasn't been a whole lot of testing of this specific kind of experimental program. So that's the big risk here, and that's why taxpayer money is involved.
All right, Daniel, I want to ask you this. There's a lot of misinformation. I'm a big supporter of any kind of alternative energy. I mean, I just don't know that there's a future in us depending on fossil fuels, but there really is a lot of misinformation. In the last few days, I've heard people tell me that we can replace all of the power generated by nuclear energy with wind and solar. Wind, solar, and geothermal all depend on geography. We can't do it everywhere. So tell me what has to be in place to be able to use geothermal.
You're absolutely right, and there's no way that we'll ever replace our of the power generation coming from coal, natural gas, nuclear. But where geothermal and wind and solar play a big role is where is the power in the next decade going to come from? And it can come from these sources. They're renewable, as your other guest said, they're clean. They reduce our dependence on foreign sources. These are generally geographically, from a geothermal perspective, in the West. So in the western U.S., we host where the mountain building is between the two ranges, the coastal range and the Rockies. There's significant and very wide-based resources of hot water that are subsurface. They're within the depths of our drilling cost horizon, so that would be somewhere around a mile or less. And those pools are where we would build our power plants. This is not experimental. This is a proven binary cycle. But what we're doing is we're using a little different configuration. We're also adding modularity. So these power plants are now built in factories. In our case, it'll be in Houston, and they'll be shipped out to the site, thereby reducing the construction risk in the field.
All right, Tyler, give me a bigger picture on this in terms of the fact that, look, between the BP spill and this nuclear threat in Japan, people really are hungry for long-term sources of energy. Any sense of how much of our electricity generation something like this could end up accounting for?
Well, it could amount to a significant portion of the power being generated. A lot of that depends on what kind of investment this is going to spur. And there is a little bit of history there. I mean, we're seeing already that the Department of Energy's Advanced Research Projects Agency has already spent $23.6 million on 6 projects that are similar to this in terms of green energy. And they've already spurred $100 million in private investment over the past year for those efforts. So it looks like if this works at all, we might see some private investment. We might see a significant portion of our future energy coming from this type of project.
All right, guys, good to talk to you. Thanks very much for bringing this to our viewers' attention. We're very committed to talking about different types of alternative energy. Daniel Kuntz is the president and CEO of U.S. Geothermal, and Tyler Gray is the deputy editor of one of my favorite magazines, Fast Company. For more on geothermal energy and all of our other big eyes, go to my blog, cnn.com/Ali. We've got links and video and more information for you.